Good morning and welcome back to another video, and today I want to go over my favourite markets that I prefer to make gold in. Now just stick around and enjoy the video. Okay, so coming over today's nice little topic of what are my favourite markets to actually make gold in, and have they been any form of good overall. Coming along with this, some of them will be things that are pretty damn obvious, other things maybe you probably wouldn't have thought of. But other than that, let's just run down some of the markets that I prefer to make my gold in, because they have either been i.e. reliable, or they have just been a great gold maker overall, which would tend to be more like reliable as well. So overall, what are the ones that I actually do prefer to actually farm up with? But that being the case, let's just jump into number one, which is Cataclysm herbs. Now, this isn't just the entire herb market, this is one specific niche in the herb market, and that is preferably Cataclysm herbs. Now, for the last few years, or probably about the last 4 or 5 years, I have literally been banging on since the inception of this channel about Cataclysm herbs. That is because they are an insane money maker, due to the fact that a lot of them are used to either make the Potion of Treasure Finding and also the Flask of Winds or the Flask of Titanic Strength, or with being able to use those to craft into the Vial of the Sands. They have a high fetching price for these materials, and they are quite well sought after. Now, this is due to the fact that I enjoy doing a lot of gathering farms, and I thought I'd throw this one in right at the beginning right now, because I know a lot of you aren't too keen on just pure gathering farms, so I wanted to do this one at number one. But overall, I have found that the Cataclysm farms are the most reliable for myself, my personal opinion, and along with that, I have found it to be a great moneymaker overall, because the actual prices of those don't really fluctuate all that much. Now, I know in BFA at this moment in time, they have all the materials have dropped in price, but over the majority of time, over the span of time that I've been farming these up, they haven't really fluctuated all that much when it comes to price. They've actually been quite steady in the way they sell, to the way they sell on the auction house, along with the gold per hour in which I actually going to make. So hence why I prefer to do things like the Whiptail farm, because it may not be the best gold per hour for me, but I know from experience that it will sell moderately well, and that is where I will put most of my time and focus in, because I know that I'm going to get my return fairly quickly, and along with that, it just works out really well. Now, a little side note with Cataclysm herbs, they not only give you the herbs, they also give you Volatile Life, which sells a hell of a lot faster than the actual herbs in question. So you get a fast selling material as well as a medium end selling material as well, which is great, because when it comes to like Ajara's Veil and Whiptail, along with Cinderbloom and all that jazz, they tend to sell moderately fast. And when it comes to Volatile Life, they usually sell in the next day or so. And that is because it's used in a wider variety of different types of items in order to use for crafting and all of that. So hence why I prefer this market, is because it's the most reliable for myself over the amount of time that I've been actually farming these up. So overall, that is Cataclysm herbs at number one. Coming in at number two, we have the Glyph market. Now, the Glyph market is it's one of those ones that can be competitive, but can also not be competitive. Now, let me explain what I actually mean by this. Now, a lot of people can actually just go ahead and do the research and find out a load of different types of glyphs. The glyph market's pretty easy to enter. It's just learn inscription and learn all of the recipes. Yeah, pretty simple enough. You can just do the research stuff, and it doesn't really cost you all that much gold to get yourself all of the research glyphs. Now, here is the thing. The other glyphs, such as the rep reward glyphs or the ones that are locked behind quests or world drops, those ones are ones that you're going to have to actually go for. And the only way you can really make proper gold with the glyph market is if you have pretty much near on all of those glyphs. Now, that means that you're going to have to put some considerable amount of time in order to build up the amount of glyphs you're going to be able to craft. So if I put in more effort to learn more glyphs to actually craft, I can then put those on the auction house, and then I have a wider variety for all different types of classes and different abilities and all that jazz, and it increases the sales of the glyphs overall. Now, I found that glyphs are a great moneymaker because they sell moderately fast. You can have a higher variety of these, and to be honest, if you wanted to get into like the transmog market or anything like that, then I would highly recommend getting into glyphs first, because then you can understand how actual transmog makes its money with the different varieties, but you're just doing it on a bit of a smaller scale when it comes to like the glyph market. And other than that, the other things of note with the glyph market is very easy to produce. There are different types of ways in order to actually get a hold of different types of pigments, and using the ink traders and all of that, and that actually works quite well in order to reduce the cost of your glyphs, be able to mass produce those, and take advantage of your milling in order to create pigments and inks in order to sell those on the auction house, as well as crafting the glyphs with those inks and pigments. So you can do some flipping with the herbs that you can farm up, or you can just buy off the auction house. My favourite one is obviously Dreamleaf, because even if I buy it, I can still usually make a profit on it by just flipping it into roseate pigment. So overall, I find that actually sourcing those materials is really easy, and when you've actually got those roseate pigments, you can then turn them into the ink trader to actually get all of the lower grade inks, and then you can use those to make your inks for an even cheaper cost, and then you can make more profit overall. I find that the glyph market is a great way in order to make a lot of gold, well, a lot of steady gold to be more precise, and overall I think it's a really good way in order to just make gold in general. Now, coming in at number 3 and following on from our last one, and that is Dreamleaf to the pigments. Yeah. This is kind of like a combination one from number 2 and number 3. Mainly it's the sourcing of those pigments is the next thing that I find is a great market in order to do. Even just the simple flip. You don't even have to get into the glyph market. It is mainly just milling. I find that I can make a lot of gold with just pure milling, like buying out a load of cheap herbs on the auction house, milling them into the inks, and then selling those inks on the auction house, or the pigments. I find that you can easily make a hefty amount of gold by doing this, and it requires little to no effort, mainly just a macro or your mass milling ability. Really does not matter all that much. Like, even if you do it on like the old world herbs, you can still make a hefty amount of gold just by making the old inks, because there's lots of noobish scribes out there that will actually just buy the inks and pigments off there, and they don't really know about like the ink trader and being able to flip it for reduced costs and all that. And then that's how you can make your money from that, is because people don't some people don't actively go out and make gold and try and get the best deal. They just want to be able to make their thing, and that's it. They don't really care about that, and that is where you're going to make your money from it. So by mass milling stuff and just milling in general, you can actually make a hefty amount of regular gold through this. Now, bear in mind, this will require you not to just make one of the inks and pray that it sells. So like, let's just say Jade Fire ink. Say you only made like 200 Jade Fire ink, and that's the only thing you had on the auction house. I would not be surprised if you didn't get a sale for like the next couple of weeks. The idea behind this is still volume of multiple different variations of all the different inks and pigments in order to make gold with this market, and that is something that I would bear in mind moving forward, because don't expect to make any gold if you're only going to sell one variety of something on the auction house, unless it's like at a stupidly high sell rate. You're not probably going to make any regular gold with that. So just bear that one in mind. I don't want you to fall for that trap, and that's something I've learned throughout the years of just milling and then relisting on the auction house. Now, coming in at number 4, and is my all-time favourite, you guys probably know what it is, and that is mounts. And to be more precise, crafted mounts. Now, I love crafted mounts for multiple reasons. Now, this is due to the fact that crafted mounts, they're just amazing. I love doing crafted mount stuff, and that is because they're usually really easy to produce. All it takes is either like an Excel spreadsheet to just break down the costs and all that stuff, which I have done, by the way. You are able to create different types of mounts and then sell those on the auction house. The majority of the time it's using TSM for TSM crafting in order to see if they're profitable. If they're profitable, go ahead and craft them. If not, you could always do a farm to craft. But the majority of the time I go with anything with a decent sell rate, so like the Vial of the Sands. Vial of the Sands is definitely one of the best money makers when it comes to mounts in general, due to the fact that it is a two-seater mount, essentially. And overall, it's a pretty good money maker when it comes to just crafted mounts in general. Now, the lowest ones that you probably will not want to get into if you're not a seasoned gold maker when it comes to mounts, so if you're not really looking, if you don't know the market that well, then don't get into panther mounts. You can make a sizable amount of money with panther mounts, but it's over a long game, so be prepared to not see a return for quite some time. If you really wanted to see a decent return really fast, it'd be like Mechanized Chopper and Vial of the Sands. And overall, I found those to be the ones that give you the best turnaround when it comes to getting your gold back moderately fast, and also being able to do a decent farm to craft for that overall. So they are my favourite markets that I like to do, providing that Vial of the Sands is definitely my all-time favourite because it has made me the majority of my gold, and yeah, it's definitely one of my most favourite things in order to do. That being the case, guys, have an awesome rest of the day, and I shall see you in the next video, which will be tomorrow.